What we just watched today wasn't just one of the best games of the season with the best ending so far this season. It wasn't just the number 1 overall pick versus the number 2 overall pick in this last year's draft. What we just witnessed today was the budding of the next great QB rivalry in the NFL. And we've had Brady-Manning. We currently have right now Mahomes-Burrow. And I think added to that list, in terms of recent history, the next great quarterback rivalry we will have in the NFL is Williams-Daniels. Daniels-Williams. These two are on a collision course to being two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think are going to have memorable games moving forward throughout the durations of both of their careers. And why I think that this is the next greatest quarterback rivalry in the NFL is because they have the 3 things you need to have in order to be in that right conversation. There are plenty of great quarterbacks we have in the league, but not many great rivalries we have that is appointment television. This is going to be one. First and foremost, because both quarterbacks are damn good. Right? Jayden Daniels right now has had a tremendous season. Obviously capped right now with this Hail Mary to lead the Commanders over the Bears 18-15. But his season so far has been tremendous. 11 total touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He has already made the Commanders better in the first 8 weeks than I think anybody could have ever imagined. I mean, they feel like at this point, when you're 6-2 through 8 weeks, you are basically a lock for the playoffs. And forget just that, they are right now on a collision course here to have a real chance to win the division and host a home playoff game this year. He's the forerunner, or front runner, I should say, for Rookie of the Year. He has been tremendous. But let's also not sleep on what Caleb Williams has done this year. He's gotten off to a rougher start, right? Jayden Daniels really, after week 1, has hit the ground running. Has had some big-time, already memorable performances on some big stages like Monday Night Football we saw in Cincinnati earlier in the season. But Caleb's been no slouch. Yeah, sure, he got off to a much rougher start. But he's really now picked his game up in the last month and is playing a lot better. And even today, I thought really showed, if you're a Bears fan, while it does end in a loss, why you should feel really good about your future. Look, don't look at the box score here and try to draw conclusions. If you didn't watch the game, go watch the highlights. Because the box score does not truly tell what happened in this game. You look at the box score for Caleb Williams, it is ugly. It is horrifying. 10 of 24 for just 131 yards, 0 touchdowns thrown by the number 1 overall pick. But why you should feel encouraged if you're a Bears fan, and why Caleb Williams, I think, again, already deserves to belong in the good quarterback category, is because you saw mental toughness and resiliency that you rarely see from rookie quarterbacks. This guy got his brains beaten in for 3 quarters, where the offensive line completely stunk. Receivers weren't helping him out at times either. He was just getting beaten down. That Commanders defense looked at time like the 85 Bears. Like, it was really tough sledding for the Chicago offense for 3 quarters. But what makes a great quarterback? How do you bounce back from that? How do you push through that adversity? How do you play in the 4th quarter of a close game? And Caleb Williams played basically flawless football in the 4th quarter and gave his team a chance to win the game. He drove right down the field, first time he got the ball in the 4th quarter, which should have been a touchdown. Why the Bears are getting cute in a game in which they have done nothing offensively and decide, let's give the ball to a backup offensive lineman, blows my mind. I'm not putting that at Caleb Williams. The ball is right there in the stomach of the offensive lineman. Again, why you're handing it off to him makes no sense to me whatsoever. That's on the offense coordinator. That's not on the quarterback. The ball was where it should have been. I'm sure they practiced it. If you're the offensive lineman, clamp down, hold on to that ball, and get in the end zone. But after that, what should have been disaster, game-changing, possibly game-ending sequence where you march down the field, you get stuffed on the 1-yard line, you fumble the ball, and you think, well, that's it. That was our best chance, and there goes that. He marched right down the field yet again, and this time made sure the drive wouldn't be spoiled by an offensive lineman. Got in the end zone with 22 seconds left, and again, that should have been ball game for the Bears. But despite the fact they lost, I thought he showed tremendous mental toughness. And that, if you're a Bears fan, should be very exciting and very promising for the future going forward. So while the stats are not pretty at times, I think Caleb already is showing you real signs of growth and real signs of greatness early. And obviously, Jayden Daniels has done that as well. So the first thing you need to have a true quarterback rivalry, obvious, I know, is good quarterbacks. Check, Bears, Commanders. Other thing you need is you need competitive teams on the same timeline. And that's what the Bears and the Commanders are. Right? They're already showing you this year. Commanders being 6-2 right now, again, in the driver's seat, not only for a playoff spot, but for a chance to win the NFC East and host a playoff game. And for the Bears, you fall to 4-3. I still think, for me, they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're talented enough. I think they're good enough to where they will win a game or two they shouldn't. And I think they will end up in January as one of the 7 NFC playoff teams. But it's not just the fact that these two teams are playoff caliber teams right away. It's the fact that their timelines match up. Rookie quarterbacks with young rosters. These two teams are going nowhere for the next 5 years bare minimum, maybe the next decade. That's how promising the future is. And just like with Brady-Manning, right? Part of the reason why that was such a big quarterback rivalry was because every year, or it felt like every year, they would meet in the playoffs. Every year, if your team that was not the Patriots or the Colts wanted to go to the Super Bowl, you had to get through one, sometimes both, in order to do that. What makes these rivalries memorable is the fact that these teams are playing high leverage games, which come in the postseason. Patriots Colts met 3 times and 2 more times when Peyton went to Denver in his career. Obviously, Mahomes and Burrow now have met twice in the playoffs, both in the AFC title game. And again, right now, if you are an AFC team, you look at the Bengals, you look at the Chiefs, are the 2 teams you have to get through in order to make the Super Bowl. They have played, they've had great games, and now this first matchup, I think, is a preview of what we'll see going forward. These 2 teams are going to be in the playoffs more times than not. These 2 teams are going to meet in the postseason a bunch. So now you look at the caliber of team around the quarterback, there is a big reason to believe we will see these 2 teams, these 2 quarterbacks match up in big games in the regular season, match up in the playoffs as well. So you have good quarterbacks and you have competitive teams that will play in high leverage games. The final thing you need here, and I would say the most important, intrigue. You have to have a reason, if you're not a Patriots or Colts fan, to care about the Brady-Manning rivalry. And why you did, if you weren't a fan of either, was because, really, it was hero versus villain. Brady was the villain, right? The guy beat everybody. He won every game. The Patriots were ripping off Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl victories, like more than we ever could imagine. So quickly, you got sick of the Patriots and realized, okay, well, anyone but New England, please. And Peyton, I think, was a hero-like figure in part because, right, he was the greatest regular season quarterback. We saw early in his career, he struggled to beat Brady. So a lot of people are rooting for, I think, Peyton to kind of get over the hump, which made those matchups in the playoffs, I think, a lot more intriguing than normal because you had a rooting interest. Either you were a Brady fan and wanted to see him succeed, or you wanted to see the Patriots lose, and more times than not, that was on the Colts' plate to do. Same thing now with Mahomes and Burrow, right? Mahomes is not exactly a villain, let's say, the way Brady was. But I would say a lot of you listening right now, if you're not Chiefs fans, you're not rooting for the Chiefs. Like, I think you are sick at this point of seeing Kansas City in the Super Bowl and seeing them win it. You want to see anybody else. And I think that's why you see this Burrow-Mahomes matchup be so intriguing for non-Bengals and Chiefs fans, not just because the games are great and they go back and forth and they're down to the wire, but also because if you don't want to see Mahomes in the Super Bowl, well, guess who's the main man to prevent that? Joe Burrow. And now with this rivalry, again, they're still very young, right? With Jayden and with Caleb. But Caleb Williams already is one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in all the league. You either love him or you hate him. You either think he's going to live up to the hype or you think he's a crybaby. You think he's a mama's boy. You don't like him because he paints his nails, or you think he's too cocky, or you think he's overhyped. Caleb Williams is not a guy that you kind of feel neutral about. Either you're in on him or you're out on him. You either want to see him succeed or you hope he fails and probably fails miserably. So you have a reason now to watch Caleb Williams on a week in, week out basis. And Jayden Daniels has kind of, I think, really captivated the nation, in part because he's played so well and has made this what has been a downtrodden Commanders organization. He has brought belief. Right? He has brought belief to this team for the first time in at least my lifetime. I'm 30 years old. I can never remember as much faith and belief in this Commanders team than what is going on right now. I mean, today, it to me jumped off the screen immediately. That was easily the best Commanders crowd I've ever heard. Ever. They were lively. They were into it. There was a real home field advantage and energy in that stadium that has been missing or non-existent in the entirety of the Daniel Snyder era. And you could say, yeah, sure, the ownership change helped, because now I think a lot of Commanders fans have bought back into the organization because now the Harris Group is owning the team. But quickly, you are seeing real belief in Jayden Daniels as well, which I think has now captivated Commanders fans to go to games, to be invested, to get their hopes up and believe. So even if you're not a Commanders fan, but want to see a storied franchise kind of get back to where they used to be, I think you're rooting for Jayden. And again, with Caleb being a polarizing figure here, you have that tension that you need to start a great QB rivalry. So you got the quarterbacks, you got the competitive teams on a similar timeline, and now you have the intrigue. Add it all up. We just saw chapter 1 of a very long and I think storied book of the next great QB rivalry in the NFL, Jayden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. I think what helps kind of get this QB rivalry going are memorable games, memorable moments, and we got that immediately with the Hail Mary. If you missed it, it was a tremendous call here by the Commanders Radio Network led by Bram Weinstein. Take a listen to their call of this just right now, best ending of the 2024 season so far.
He's just going to have to let one fly. Goes to the right side. Steps away from the defenders. Gives himself some time. Now steps up, fires. Heads towards the end zone. It is...
None really. No. Just throw the ball up, give my guys a shot. I didn't see anything. No, not really. I just heard people screaming and our sideline rushing the field. So that's how I knew.
So that was obviously not only the final call, but also Jayden Daniels after the game talking about, did you do anything special to lead to the success? He goes, no, I just threw it up. My guys made a play. That's crazy too. Not even knowing like that it happened until you see the reaction by the fans and the team. But that's, again, one of those moments where you will remember that. I think it starts off, like it helps, I think, to juice this rivalry and really kind of get it going off the floor here.